Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you all to the first technical session of the 7-day faculty development program on evolving research paradigms in forensic science. Forensic science has a rich but undervalued history and richer potential ahead. Advancements in forensic science are an ongoing process, and each day introduces a new technique into the forensic world. Beginning with primitive ideas in various civilizations of Roman, Latin, and Indian descent, today forensic science is a torchbearer in advancements in technology, precision, and clarity. To speak to us on this paradigm shift in research in forensic science, we have Professor Vina Vaswani, professor at Yenepoya Medical College, Mangalore. Dr. Vaswani is a qualified bioethicist with a background of forensic medicine and toxicology. She has completed her master's in bioethics in 2008 as an Erasmus Mundus scholar from three European universities, Belgium, Netherlands, and Italy. She also has a postgraduate diploma in medical law and ethics and human rights laws, both from National Law School of India University, Bangalore. She has completed her PhD from Dublin City University, Dublin, Ireland, in the year 2020. Presently, Ma'am serves as the Director, Center for Ethics at Yenepoya Medical College, Mangalore. Ma'am is in heart a forensic professional, in practice a strict proponent of ethics in workplace. Ma'am has 27 years of teaching and working in clinical forensic medicine, clinical toxicology, and medico-legal autopsy. 5 years of expertise and teaching in forensic anthropology, and 11 years of teaching and research in bioethics education, medical ethics, and clinical ethics. With 22 journal articles, 2 book chapters, and co authoring with close to 300 professionals, ma'am was one of the first people we contacted to begin the technical sessions for this faculty development program. We thank ma'am for agreeing to speak to us even in the midst of a travel to Europe. Without much delay, I hand over the session to ma'am.
So thank you for the invitation. I'd like to place on record my appreciations for being invited. Faculty development program is one of the driving forces because especially in forensic, the knowledge expounds to nearly 1.5 times in 120 days. So considering that, it's imperative that we all stay in tune to what we are learning and also embed the new learnings. So I'd start my presentation. I would like to thank Suchita and Ashika, and also the Don and Mayank, the hosts for today's function. And also, if I have missed anybody, it's only because I haven't paid much attention. So, I will be covering in this aspect what is a paradigm shift. It's good to know paradigm shift because then we remain open for the changes in the environment, which further keeps kicking the ball of forensic science in different directions. So we need to understand it to the core. What is paradigm shift? And also what is forensic research and what is so unique about forensic research. Is it same as any other research? Can we say forensic research is same as any physics chemistry research? So that we will try to bring it out. When we have brought out the uniqueness, then we will also try to understand what is extra expected from a forensic professional when you look at from terms of research and when it flows in as an evidence. So one of the driving forces is professionalism and research integrity. And also, lastly, I end up by saying how we need to be constantly engaged to the changing field because it's an expanding field. Any research that adds, if at all it's applicable as an evidence in giving justice, then we need to be bothered, we need to be patient to understand, and we need to be able to discern out how it can be used as an evidence or no. And lastly, but it should be one of the most important things to question our own bias in the subject, our own bias with particular investigation, our bias with the particular processes that we are doing. But we say, no, to me it works, so I'm going to do it. So these are the biases we need to look at. So in all, we are trying to be a forensic professionals, understanding our way is in giving justice, and that is how the research should be done, and that is how evidence should be given. So what is a paradigm? When we talk of a paradigm, it means like a prototype, a model because that is something that goes on changing. It's not the same all time. Paradigm changes. It's a standard of perspective on a set of ideas. If you just close your eyes and go back, to a hospital setting 20 years back, or the earliest years that you remember, and the hospitals that you remember today, and the healthcare you expected then, and the healthcare you get now, you will get some idea, though not a great idea, about the shifts in paradigms. It's an epitome, it's an image, prototype, or a model. If I tell you that please remember how the ancient medicine was practiced, you'll have a different set of images. If I tell you how it is practiced in today's corporate world, you'll have a different set of images. That imagery, prototype, or a model is a paradigm. It's used a lot in academic, science, and even business worlds. It's a framework of concepts and results and procedures within which subsequent work is structured. If I tell you that you go to hospital and you go with the mindset of seeing some Vaidya or a Hakim, and then suddenly you will find you're not prepared to meet the people in the white coats because your mind was set in a different way. And many a times, this was what happens at a global level of forensic when we have a particular data, a particular approach, a particular process, but it may not stand the verification at a global level. If we say in the anthropometric things, we have measured it with a scale, and they say it's nothing less than a digital calipers. So there itself, the model didn't meet up to the standards. So we need to know, what are we talking about? Are we in the same level playing field when we converse with our own professionals across the cultures, across the continents? So the paradigm shift is a radical change in the core concepts and practices in a given domain, discipline, or a field. The shift can occur at any of these levels and may cut across all these levels. This change has been precipitated by unprecedented demand for high quality and meaningful education. Now, in education, there were times when people came to Takshila, they came to Nalanda, they came to Indian universities, which were very, very comprehensive. In olden days, one of the most sought after education system was also the Gurukul system. Here, the child lived with the Guru. He learned to do the chore of the Guru in the house of the Guru, thereby learning along with that, making a living and trying to know the life's skills besides only texts. But today, if you do that, it's called a child labor. Ask a child to do some work in the teacher's house. It's called, how can you make a child do something? So that's a changed perspective. And in the higher education, we are very much open for experiencing the continents outside for education. And another shift that has occurred, initially it was a free-for-all education, then there was a lot of fees for private and free for others, and those who could not afford. Then came a model of system of higher education, where like this Erasmus Mundus program, where I was a part of it, was totally free for developing countries as an altruistic measure, as a measure that let there be equity. So now we have universities, some of them free for all, some of them have no fee, and not very, but few of them, but some of them charge a very steep fee. So this is all the shift that is taken in higher education. This change is because we want a quality, and also we are trying to put human right into it, equity. Is everyone being educated? A free education for everybody. So again, going back with the paradigm shift in forensic, whenever there's a radical change in the core concept change, the practice of the field also changes. Do we recognize just a magnifying lens of Sherlock Holmes and so many cases solved? And do you think in today's world it's possible to solve only with a magnifying lens? And then we looked at comparison microscope as, wow, what a nice thing. But yet, it moved on to another field in DNA, where we thought, now this is the crux of the evidence, where you find it attaches itself to the perpetrator and not just by chance. So I want you to remember forensic about 2-3 decades ago. If you have seen any movies, documentaries, you will be surprised that the evidence was more of shouting and running around, making dramatics and proving a point. Yeah. Because forensic individualization, scientists compared pairs of marks like handwriting, fingerprint, tool marks, hair, tire marks, bite marks, etc. But there wasn't a kind of calibration that could it be false positive? Is it beyond reasonable doubt? How was it proven? So whether the marks matched and testified in the court, or who did it and how it can be said. The courts never excluded expert testimony. If an expert said it did it, the court accepted it blindly. It literally at face value. Cross-examination rarely questioned the foundation of the expertise. Why do you want to say so? In fact, I remember a time I went with my head of the department as a second MBBS student to the court. In the court, they said, the cross-examination asked my boss, the HOD then, that how do you know this is because of this? He said, because I say so with my 25 years of experience. But this is not enough. This is what you can say, I myself with all my magnified personality, it is not enough proof to say. It can only come when you have a better sense of approach for giving justice. But for ages together, forensic evidence has been based on expert testimony, and the expertise or the interpretation of the test has not much been scrutinized. So this is where the paradigm shift has to occur and has occurred. And in today's times, questioning every bit of decision by media and academics, it has paved way for better evidence. Whether it was the Nupur case or whether it was a case of Jessica Lal's murder, the questioning, the media trial, I don't agree it should be there, but I'm just telling that one of the reasons why everybody wants to do a good job is adhere to a quality. Don't do a shoddy job like Sushant Singh Rajput's case. So we expect that because we are being totally scrutinized and questioned, we should follow a quantum of quality and not fall below the quality. The news reports of erroneous forensic identification by hair, bullets, handwriting, footprints, bite marks, even fingerprints for that matter. There's this beautiful case study by E.T.L. Dror. He blinded 10 forensic people. He gave them fingerprints with a hypothetical case study. And to them, he said, these are the black, they were found at the crime scene, this, and these are the fingerprints. And this is also at the crime scene, and this is what was at his home. Do they match? And the forensic experts, 9 on 10, whenever it was black, they said it matches. The same study was given as these are whites, and they said, no, it doesn't match. So this is where we need to look at our own bias that we bring when we interpret the results. Because results are scientific, but interpretation is human. And to err is human, and to be biased is human, and we have to question our biases. So current state of traditional forensic sciences probably asserts their claims which are under-researched and overrated. A person is famous because of the dramatics he makes. In fact, earlier trials, if you see some of the earlier trials in the courtrooms, it was more of a fiasco. It was more like a tableau. In fact, when I went with my HOD in Nagpur, before he appeared in the court, there used to be 2 people running with his trunk, a black color big trunk, and he used to take his evidence textbooks. And he knew, he had written that, but he would make a dramatic gesture of, get me that book, I tell you. And they used to open the back and get it to him, although he had known very well, this is on page 17 of the book, but he made it a gesture, if my memory serves me right. And then he would say that. And people clap, clap, clap. It used to be more of a dramatics. So this is where we need to look at actually the evidence that we give. It should be in neutrality. It should not be to make a kind of, hero of myself. Besides DNA, what else are we looking at? The paradigm shift in the research, which is applied in forensic, is newer technologies. Whenever a new technology is invented, there are efforts to apply it in the medical legal context. Actually, it's interesting how when technologies came in, forensic was not bothered about it. For a long time, they did not even want to be trained. In fact, in Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Belgaum, the computers were introduced in 1993. That was the year I joined as a postgraduate. And our HOD was asked to suggest names of a person for computer training. And you know what our HOD said? There is no application of computer in forensic. Hence, I don't want to waste time of my PG sending them for training. So if we work with this mindset, we cannot work for justice. Ultimately, I had to go and take the training without the university, the college help, but slyly on the sly going during lunch break and learning, because I knew that whatever is the technology, it is going to be embedded one time or the other. So it's a product of technology that may not necessarily be harmful in itself, but one should be aware of the false positives and false negatives. However, who, why, when, where, whom it's applicable has its implications. If you have a DNA analysis, but if you don't know your people how they can collect the evidence, it will be a waste. If they do not preserve the evidence, then it's a waste. So there is a lot of things that must go in the form of training as well. So digital forensics, DNA analysis, DNA banking, narco analysis, all these have made a forensic person know professionalism. The tests by themselves don't help. They have to be interpreted in the wider canvas of scientific interpretation. So we have to develop professionalism and gaps in the developed and developing countries and in the international crime scenes. So digital forensics, like it was reported by Pollitt in 2010 actually, that Crime by Computer was one of the first books that described the use of digital information to investigate and punish crimes. Now tell me, if the crime is by the computers, then does computer become a crime scene? Because the forensic experts are so used to going to the crime scene, collecting the data, collecting the information, but then they're looking for a physical crime scene, whereas initially the crime scene got transformed into your PC board. So that was where the crime was conducted. Forensic tools have become crucial in reconstructing evidence despite attempts at hacking and cyber attacks. So digital forensic is not about just solving crime, but using computers to include crime against people whose evidence is found only on computer. You may hold a person in jail, but you may not find any evidence. If you don't have an expertise of questioning or the cyber forensic expertise, you won't be able to successfully interrogate. The phishing, child pornography, they were only done because of expertise in computers. So Professor Alec Jeffrey's discovery of some regions of human DNA being unique to each person. So the moment this was discovered, there was a thought of, if that is unique, would that also establish identity in case of a criminal? So the investigators wanted Professor Alec Jeffrey to help them find a person who had murdered a 15-year-old Dawn Ashworth. You should read this case study. Dawn Ashworth in 1986. She was 15-year-old and she was murdered. A suspect had been caught and he confessed. But just for interest's sake, somebody did the DNA. So DNA at the crime scene did not match with that who had confessed. Now, if it was a traditional forensic, the confession would have been enough to send him to jail and punish. But slowly, they came to know that the person who was, their DNA was taken, a suspect told him, even he had confessed, that he was paid to say his name is Colin Pitchfork. But he was not Colin Pitchfork. So even the DNA was not matching because he was giving a wrong name. When he was not the criminal, but he was posing a criminal, so his DNA was not matching. But he was boasting in front of somebody that he has been paid money to say that he is Colin Pitchfork. And on that basis, they had another manhunt and they caught hold of Colin Pitchfork, whose DNA really matched. So there is a move from a confessional type of evidence to a material evidence as a part of looking through the paradigms. Not every country can have DNA analysis. Like in India, you don't do it in every crime scene. Unlike physical, documentary, digital, and other forms of evidence, what is the evidence of narco-analysis? It's been questioned in many countries because they say, if my constitution tells me that I do not incriminate myself, then I should not be subjected to narco-analysis if I'm not willing. So how is it happening in which case? This test is carried out frequently, but the police say that the results are not admissible, but whatever is the evidence we get can help in better getting more data or go behind who are the culprits. We will not produce the results as such, but we will work on the evidence and get a better outcome. Similarly, when you use forensic intelligence, imagine the facial recognition software. Are you aware that it's extensively used? You go to a supermarket, there is a facial recognition software. Everywhere they put cameras only so that with the facial recognition software, if there is a theft or something, they're able to get into it. But we also, when we started using it, we had to know the pitfalls. Do you know of the country where they use facial recognition so rampantly and they are crimes against humanity? In China, against a Muslim population. So the people should realize that these are not foolproof. While doing so, there could be out of 10, 4 people wrongly implicated to belong to a particular tribal group or a ritualistic group, but they may not be. So facial recognition is used rampantly for marketing, surveillance, airport, and smartphones. And this software is not accurate. It has a high rate of false acceptance rate and false rejection rate. Many softwares match white males better than dark-skinned females. That means even though I'm Mrs. X, at the airport, I may be detained because I don't look like Mrs. X, because I'm black. So does that then make it tough for me? Does it cause moral distress when everybody is watching as though I'm a kind of international crook? So this could increase already existing racial divide due to false acceptance rate, where a person from particular race could be victimized. So professionalism, especially in the low middle income countries, we need to inculcate professionalism as a personal endeavor. There are a number of digital devices that could be used as wearables, smartphones, tablets, laptops, and Internets of Things devices and cloud-based services. So cases involving digital evidence could increase significantly. So that is why we need to catch up with the technology. The developing countries should shoulder responsibility of bringing equity and justice by investing in good forensic labs, ruling out inherent biases, and also so that the criminalists don't gallop while the investigators are so snail-paced. O.J. Simpson. If forensic evidence is to be admissible in court, the highest standards, professional standard, must be used at the crime scene. What happened in his case? He murdered his girlfriend. But he was not, even though he was guilty, his bloodstain was found at the crime scene, the same on his gloves. The fact that police entered his house without a search warrant. So according to the fourth principle, the investigation also have to be done ethically to be admissible in the court of law. Just because the police entered his house without the warrant, he was exonerated. So ethics also matters. So we need to understand that it is not just forensic. The forensic is a very rich subject. It takes into itself forensic science, research, ethics, ethical implications, professionalism, and others. So with that, I finish my presentation. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you.